Well, hello everybody. Welcome to P.B.M. Money. Today, we're going to talk about the 6 things every investor needs to know about money. Of course, when I was in college, it was called the 6 functions of the dollar. I just didn't think that title sounded very good. So, the 6 functions of a dollar. When you think about it, it's kind of unique that there's only 6 functions for a dollar. You can do anything in the world with it, but there's only 6 functions. Now first, let's talk about how you can actually use these. I would imagine today they are somewhere online, but it used to be it was nothing but a little book of charts, and each chart had, down one side would be time, the other side would be money, or one time would be months, and one side would be investment amounts, and depending on the chart, and then you would take and plug your information into and add, subtract, multiply, or divide, and that would give you your answer. And to give you a more definitive answer of what is the functions of money, it is the present and future value of money based on circumstances. That sounds pretty good. I think I came up with that by myself. Nice. Okay. But mostly, I think if you just go, today in the age of computers, you can probably just go on there and ask Google any question, they'll give you the answer. But there really is only 6 functions to a dollar, and if you Google 6 functions to a dollar, you will find these. Now the first one I want to talk about is a term that I hear misused on finance shows all the time, and that is a sinking fund. A sinking fund is not money where you just throw money into an account and it stays there till you need it. That is not a sinking fund. A sinking fund is a specific thing. As an example, I am going to buy a car in 3 years. That car is going to cost me roughly $15,000. I can invest it at 5%. How much do I need to save each month, starting now, to get to exactly $15,000 in 36 months? And all you got to do is go down the chart, punch in the numbers, boom. Now again, this was 40 years ago. This was before computers. Now all you have to do is Google it. But the reason I wanted to cover this is because there are only 6 functions of a dollar, and that's one of them. Now the next one is another one that we're all very familiar with, and this is called the mortgage rate, mortgage date interest, or loan date interest. And you can, it's kind of like this. If I borrow $50,000 for 30 years at 3% interest, what's my monthly payment? Now today I know realtors have got mortgage calculators and bankers, and they can come up with that answer in 2 minutes. But they get those answers because the function of a dollar, the mortgage date interest chart, is programmed into that calculator. They're punching in the information and they're going to give you an exact dollar amount. Now the next one is called the future value of money. And it says, if I invest $10,000 and get 3% annual interest rate, what will my money be worth in X number of years? Have you ever wondered, as an example, I just did a video about Dave Ramsey and the baby steps, and in the 80s he was teaching that $1,000 is what you needed for your emergency fund. Well, in the 1980s, gas was running about 40 cents a gallon. A loaf of bread ran about 50, 75 cents a loaf. See what I'm saying? The equivalent of that $1,000 is probably a little over $2,000 right now. So to be teaching the same dollar amount 20 years later is asinine. So if you were in the 1980s and you said, what is the future value of this $1,000 in 2021? They would give you an exact answer. And that's one of the functions of the dollar, the future value. And the next one is called the future value of an annuity. And that one goes like this. If I invest $100 a month for X years at 7% interest, how much will my money be worth? Now, that takes into account a couple of things. Number one, that you're going to make 7% interest. Number two, it takes into account the time value of money, just like the last one. So if money is inflating at 3% and you're going to make 7%, that means the net is going to be 4%, but it's all in the chart. You don't have to go through all those gyrations. The next one is called the present value of money. And this one, you can look at it this way, and it's kind of like, this is an important one for people that win like the lotto or inherit money. And you can think of it this way: if I inherit $1 million in 10 years at 5% interest, what is the present value of that $1 million? Now think about that. $1 million in 20 years. We just got done doing an experiment where $1,000 needed to become a little bit more than $2,000 in 30 years. In this example, we're working it backwards by saying, if I'm going to inherit $100 million or $1 million in 20 years, what's that money worth right now? At ballpark, it's around $2 million. And the last one, the number 6 function of a dollar is called the present value of an annuity. And it says, if I invest $100 a month for X number of years at 7% interest, how much is all future payments worth today? And what we did is we just took the last one and inverted it, which we have done with all three of these. So if you're going to put $100 into an investment, and they say annuity, because that's what we used mostly back then, and you're going to put it into an annuity for 20 years, and you're going to make 7% interest each year for 20 years, how much is all my future payments worth today? See, a minute ago we did, if the $1 million in 20 years is worth $2 million today, if I put the money in for the next 20 years at 7%, and we come up with $1 million then, what's my payments worth today? And the answer to that is probably a lot less, like around $500,000. So those are the 6 things that every investor needs to know about money, because if you don't understand this, you're kind of running by the seat of your pants. And I'll give you an example of where this was used in business. I've only seen it used one time. And I was working in a retail store, and they were trying to control inventory. And they sent us a chart, and it was very simple, because they didn't think we could understand it. But what they did is they took the future value of money and applied it to our inventory. As an example, if it was a quick moving item, and they could give you, along the top, how long will it take you to move one case? And if the answer was 1 month, then you buy. If it was 2 months, you buy. If it was over 2 months, you don't buy. Because the key was what is the future value of my dollar today? So if and here's the logic. If I spend $100 for a case of something today, and I can sell it and pay my bill back and hold the product and sell it in 2 months, and then use the value of that dollar 2 months from now, then I'm making money. If I got to hold it 3 months, now I'm losing money. Now, on a micro way to look at it, that's an infinitesimal amount. But think about if you were a chain and you're trying to control the inventory, and your inventory is seasonal. Now all of a sudden, the future value of your current money becomes very, very important. But the one most of us as investors deal with is the sinking fund. And if you use that properly, instead of putting $100 a month into an account so that you have $1,200 in a year, if you would use the future value or the sinking fund value, you would find that you don't have to put $100 in. If you're making 5%, you probably only need to put in around $96. So you save $4. Do that with a piece of real estate. The numbers just became pretty big. 6 things every investor needs to know about money. And frankly, everybody that has anything to do with money should at least acquaint themselves with this to know that money changes hand, not just because of inflation, but because of time, percentage, interest, consistency. All of those things matter, and these charts will make it easier for you to know that. Well, that's about all I wanted to say. You guys have a great day, a great week, and happy investing.